If you're serious about moving to South America or even retiring abroad, there are two countries that you're probably considering, just like I did, and that's Peru and Paraguay. These are not just places that I passed through. I've stayed in both for an extended period of time. And after spending long stretches in other places such as Colombia, Mexico, Guatemala, Argentina, Puerto Rico, these two still stand out. So in this video, I'm gonna break down the pros and cons for these two awesome countries, from cost of living, to lifestyle, to dating, to safety, to food, to overall long-term living potential, so that you can figure out which one makes the most sense for you. And by the way, if you're new here, my name's Alex, and on this channel, I share everything that I've learned about leaving the United States and living a much higher quality of life in Latin America as a man over 35. So if that sounds interesting to you, be sure to subscribe. Now let's get into the video. Okay, so let's start with cost of living and rent. So both Peru and Paraguay, in my opinion, they offer an incredible quality of life for under $2,500, even under $2,000 a month USD, all right? You can live very comfortably, pretty much like a king in either of these cities. The difference really comes down to how often you eat out, what you value most, your overall lifestyle, which we'll get into, okay? So in Asunción, I've lived in pretty much all the best neighborhoods in the entire country, okay? Villa Mora, Recoleta, Las Lomas, even San Cristobal. All of these, I found really beautiful modern apartments with balconies, nice views, gyms inside, pools. All these are prime locations, and you can definitely get a really nice apartment in these locations on Airbnb, by the way, for about $1,000 a month, okay? Different neighborhoods are a little cheaper than others, of course, but Airbnb is the most you're gonna spend. And for $1,000 a month, you can definitely find good housing here still, even though it is getting a little more expensive in Asunción, for about $1,000 a month or maybe a little less. Now, like I said, if you want to go simpler, you still can pay much less and still live very well in Asunción. Now, in Lima, Peru, the pricing is also very similar, okay? I also lived in the best neighborhoods in this city. So I lived in Miraflores, which is, my opinion, the best of the best, right? There's also San Isidro, there's Barranco, but I put Miraflores and San Isidro to be the top two in the entire city. Everything is close by. It's all walkable. You're literally minutes from the ocean, from the beach, from surfing. I was paying less than $1,000 a month for a couple great options, which I'll probably share some B-roll of those. One of them was a really nice duplex loft style apartment, which I love. I love duplexes. And this was right in the heart of everything. I mean, like, literally, I walk outside my apartment. There's the grocery store. There are some of the best restaurants in the entire city, right? This was an amazing location, which I'll probably show you on a map as well. So in both of these cities, even on Airbnb, which is the premium option, you can still find really nice apartments in the best parts of the city for about $1,000 a month or a little less, all right? Now, the key difference is that Lima, in my opinion, does give you more value for your money. Why is that? Because I mean, not only is it a massive city of over 12 million people, you just have way more things to do, way more optionality, right? You also have some of the best food in Latin America, which we'll get into in a different section in this video later on. You have walkable access to the beach, again, to surfing, to overall much better, much nicer, much stronger infrastructure, right? Great places to run, to bike. So as for total cost of living, I mean, it really is gonna depend on your lifestyle, okay? Like, how often do you eat out? In a place like Lima, you can go cheap in Lima. There are places you can eat out, really good lomo saltados or ceviches for maybe around $5, you know, maybe even a little less in some places. But you can also go to if you want to go to the nicest of the nicest restaurants here, you have some of the best chefs in the entire world. You have some of the best restaurants in the entire world in this mega city. So that's where it can get pretty expensive pretty quickly, okay? Especially if you're dating 2 or 3 women. If you're going out very often, Lima does have a pretty cool nightlife. I was dating a Cuban girl in Lima, and she had access to a lot of the places. And if you're doing that, like a couple nights a week, every week, plus going to a nice restaurant every single week, right? Eating out every day, Lima can get expensive in that area. Now, Paraguay, I think, is more consistent, more affordable. Like, even if you go to the nicest restaurants in Paraguay, you're still not spending that much money. I recently went to a really nice steakhouse in Paraguay, and I spent about like $15, like $10 to $15 for a nice steak and some sides as well. So really good pricing for really good quality. In Paraguay, you're not spending as much when it comes to eating out and restaurants and that sort of thing. Plus, Paraguay doesn't have as much nightlife as Lima does. So again, if you go out for drinks, it's not going to cost you as much. So I just think overall, if your priority is lowest cost of living, Paraguay is going to have the edge. But if you're looking for the best value for your dollar and still have a low cost of living, with more things to do, better infrastructure, more variety within your lifestyle, then I have to give Lima the edge for that. So really, you can just take your pick which one makes the most sense for you. All right, now let's talk residency, visas, and taxes. Again, this is going to be for someone who's more serious. You're not just looking to visit, not just travel as a tourist. You're actually looking to live somewhere or spend a considerable amount of time in one of these countries, okay? So when it comes to visas, Peru is the easier country for short-term travelers, which is what most of you probably are, especially when you're first starting out in this journey, just like I was. Many nationalities, including US and Canada, you can enter visa-free in Peru for up to 183 days, basically 6 months. Now, Paraguay, on the other hand, gives you 90 days. And then you have to either leave or renew. But from my understanding, once you're there for 90 days, you have to leave and then you can come back, basically. Now, there are some hoops around that, which I won't get into. But if your plan is to bounce around on a tourist visa, just basically do visa runs and that sort of thing without committing to residency, Peru is going to be more flexible, okay? Now, residency and taxes, this is where Paraguay really starts to pull away. So not just from Peru, but also most other countries in the region, such as Colombia, which I did another video on Paraguay versus Colombia, so check that one out. Paraguay is famously easy when it comes to getting residencies. The process is pretty straightforward. It's very affordable. It requires minimal paperwork. All you need is 2 main documents. And those documents are your birth certificate apostilled and your background check apostilled. That's pretty much it. Once you bring those 2 documents to Paraguay, you then work with someone locally to get it done. All right. You don't need to prove income. You don't need a large requirement of savings. You don't need to make any investments. This is one of the simplest residency programs in the world. And really, anyone who's serious about setting up a base in South America can do it as long as you have a clean background history. Now, side point, if you are going to be getting residency in Paraguay, you want to be careful who you work with. I did work with someone initially, and it didn't go smooth at all. It took a lot of time, took a lot of hassle. I decided to cut my ties with that person and work with someone else who had more connections, who had more ties to basically a lawyer. I worked with an actual lawyer who got it done so efficiently, okay? I had to do the birth certificate and the criminal background on my own in the States. So if you want to save a lot of time just on that piece, feel free to book a consultation with me. It should only take about 30 minutes. Links in the description. But once you do get to Paraguay, you want to make sure you work with someone reputable, ideally an attorney. They don't have to be an attorney, but I just found working with one made it much simpler. It took maybe half a day, and basically she got it done. So if you also want a good referral for a good price, you won't be paying some of these rates that you see other guys charging, then be sure to reach out to me again for a consultation call. I'm happy to go over this process with you and share that referral with you for now until I probably offer this myself. Now, Peru makes it a little more complicated, okay? So the most popular option that I found is gonna be the rentista visa to stay in Peru long-term, right? Which requires proof of passive income of at least $1,000 a month, which isn't that much. But the catch is you can't legally work in Paraguay under that visa. So that doesn't work for someone like myself who works online, right? Now, for longer term residency, you generally need to be here a minimum of 3 years and also jump through some hoops. So yes, Peru does offer residency, but it takes more time. It takes more effort compared to Paraguay. It's much more of a fast track system. You don't need to live here to get residency here. You do need to visit once every so often. Again, if you want to learn more about that, just book a call. But Paraguay is going to be the easier option when it comes to residency. Now, taxes are where the differences get even bigger, okay? Paraguay operates on a territorial tax system, which means you can earn income from outside the country. You earn a USD remotely. It's not going to be taxed typically. If you do business locally, corporate taxes are low. They're around 10%, and the rules seem simple. Peru, however, taxes worldwide income once you pass 183 days inside the country. And from what I understand, progressive rates, they can go up to about 30% that you'll be paying if you're living there more than 6 months, basically. Now, keep in mind, I'm not a tax attorney, so this isn't legal advice, all right? Talk to a professional. But based off my research, based off conversations with other expats, the contrast is pretty clear. Paraguay is going to win this battle, hands down. If your goal is to set up a long-term base, protect your income, get residency with minimum hassle, minimum expense, Paraguay is very hard to beat in this category. Now let's talk safety and stability, all right? So once you're considering to live in a place, this becomes higher priority in my opinion, especially if you want to have family, maybe you already have kids, maybe you want to raise kids. This becomes a higher priority on the hierarchy list of values, in my opinion. So from my own experience, I've never felt unsafe in either Peru or Paraguay. I've spent extended time in both of these countries, as I mentioned. And amongst people that I know personally, no one has actually been robbed, drugged. No one's had many major issues in either of these countries. Both of these countries are pretty safe, especially if you stick to the right neighborhoods. So in Lima, safety really depends on where you are. In neighborhoods such as Miraflores, Barranco, San Isidro, there's some other ones that surround those areas. I felt completely fine walking around at any time of the day. I saw families out with their kids. I saw people walking their dogs. It has a very normal, everyday city feel. But once you venture out too far outside these zones, things can get pretty sketchy pretty quickly. So just keep your guard up once you're outside the main zones in Lima. Now, Asunción is pretty similar in that sense, right? If you're in neighborhoods such as Villamora, Recoleta, Las Lomas, I feel completely safe in these areas, all right? But if you wander into certain areas outside the main neighborhoods, like maybe you go into the Centro, and maybe it's late at night, and maybe you're walking out with your cell phone, or you're walking around with an expensive watch, you know, you're making yourself a target. So that said, I'd argue that overall, both cities are safe, but Paraguay feels a bit safer and calmer than Peru. Now, a lot of that has to do with the population size, which I'll get into here. But if I were thinking about raising a family, I mean, I'd have to give the slight edge to Paraguay. The city is a bit smaller. It's around 2 million people in the entire metro area compared to Lima's 12 million, massive, right? So that smaller town vibe makes it more chill. It makes it less noise, less touristy, less begging for money, less chaos. Lima, however, like I said, is still a perfectly safe place to raise a family if you stay in the good neighborhoods. I'd feel very comfortable with my future wife or children walking around Miraflores or San Isidro. I'd probably live in San Isidro if I was living there long term, but just visiting, I'd probably stay in Miraflores. But I wouldn't have to worry day to day. So final verdict, I mean, both Peru and Paraguay, as I mentioned, they're solid options for safety, for eventually raising a family, if you already have kids, for moving there with your family. I just think Paraguay gets the slight edge here too, man. It's a smaller size. It's a more relaxed, chilled vibe. It just gives me a sense of stability that feels more attractive, especially if you want to start a family someday or if you already have one. So either one's fine, but slight edge to Paraguay. All right, now let's talk dating and feminine energy for the single guys on this channel. So this is a big one, of course, for us single men, because dating a high quality woman who supports your vision, your mission, your goals is one of the most important factors in building a high quality of life. And choosing the mother of your children is easily a top 3, probably top 2 decision you'll ever make as a man. So the dating scene and the type of woman that you meet in each country is going to matter a lot to your overall quality of life. Now in Lima, Peru, the good thing is you're going to find endless options. Okay, again, this is a massive city of over 12 million people with tons of different diversity. You're not just meeting Peruvians, you're also meeting a lot of Colombians, Venezuelans, even Cubans. As I mentioned, I dated a Cuban woman there, along with some Peruvians as well. And I found Peruvian women to be very intelligent, very spiritual, very wise. A lot of them spoke or understand a little bit of English as well, which you can see as a plus for you guys who don't speak that Spanish pretty well yet. Now, Paraguayan women, on the other hand, are what I call more chilled and relaxed Latinas, right? To me, that's a good thing. Okay, physically, I also find them very attractive. If you like long, dark hair, curvy frame, cute faces, that's my type. All right. Personality-wise, Paraguayan women tend to be more traditional. They value family over career. They're nurturing. They often have that homebody energy. They're more likely to rub your shoulders, give you a massage, cut your toenails, right? Really just make you feel like a king in your own home. Okay, that doesn't mean that they're not intelligent. It is more of a traditional culture here than a place like Peru. Now, my final verdict, both countries are really good for dating, right? It depends. I think it depends what you're looking for. In a place like Lima, it's amazing for volume. Like I mentioned in other videos, if you want to have a lot of options, if you want to practice your day game, if you want more diversity, but if you're looking for long-term relationship and a woman with more traditional family-oriented values, I think Paraguay takes that edge. Not saying you can't find that in Lima. Of course you can. I just think bigger cities offer different pros and cons versus a smaller to mid-sized city. So Paraguay takes the edge if you're looking for, again, if you're looking for more longer-term relationship and a woman to build something with, in my opinion. Moving on to lifestyle, weather, and culture. So this is where things can get interesting because Paraguay and Peru, they offer different flavors depending on what you're looking for. So let's start with weather. Lima has its sweet spot, I think, between December to April. Okay, these months are warm, they're sunny, they're full of energy, the city comes alive. But once May hits, I felt a shift. it starts to get gloomy, gray, and a bit colder. So I was really enjoying my time in Lima until around May. That's when I decided to bounce and basically chase the sun in Guatemala. Now, Paraguay has its seasons as well, but overall, it's more sunny. It's a bit hotter throughout the year. December, specifically December through February, can get extremely hot. You definitely feel it. But again, I mean, if you're working from home like myself, you're typically in AC, and then at night it cools down, in the morning it's kind of cool. So it's not too bad if you ask me. And if you're someone who likes heat, if you can tolerate like, Miami weather, or if you like Colombian weather, like Cartagena or Santa Marta, I think Santa Marta is hotter than here. So it just depends who you are, okay? I found that September through November are some of the best months for weather in Asunción. March was also really nice, but for someone like me who leans towards sun and leans towards more warmer climate, Paraguay is definitely the better fit. So if you prefer cooler weather, if you like gloomy, if you like dark skies, Lima might be more of your style. But if you're a sun chaser, Paraguay is going to give you more enjoyable months out of the year. Now, culturally, the difference is also clear. Paraguay has more of a relaxed, slower paced vibe. People here are, in my opinion, they're friendlier. They're naturally welcoming to foreigners, right? Small things like greeting you in the elevator, ¿Cómo estás? Buen día. Hasta luego, right, is normal here in Paraguay. But Peruvians, in my experience, a little more neutral, right? They're a little more like the US, to be honest. Like if you see someone I'm not saying that they're unfriendly, but if you're in the elevator, they're probably not going to say anything to you, right? Or maybe you might say something to them and they might look at you a little funny sometimes. Not all the time. Of course, you'll come across some friendly Peruvians, but just culturally speaking, they're a little more neutral than warm on the friendly side, right? And the reason I think that is because it's a massive big city, right, that sees a lot of foreigners. So they're not as curious about you, being a foreigner in their country. They're busy. It's a big city. It's busier, right? So people in bigger cities, also in colder climate, because again, Lima does lean more towards colder. I just find that the people there tend to be a little colder as well, just been my experience. Now, lifestyle-wise, Paraguay is all about the chill, family-oriented, asado lifestyle on Sundays, right? Asado just means barbecues with friends, family, slower pace, less noise, less going out, less dancing, less blasting music, less nightlife, right? But you can still get that here, right? You can still get, I have a group of friends that when I go out with them, they're out all night. Like they don't go to sleep. They're up to like 7 a.m. So there are places in Asunción that you can have that type of a lifestyle. It's just not going to be abundant, not going to be as much as a Lima, Peru, right? In my opinion, Peru and Lima specifically is more about productivity. It's more about nightlife. It's that big city energy, that big city grind, which is probably why the infrastructure there is a lot nicer and a lot better than Paraguay. So both have their appeal, right? There's pros and cons to all of this. It just really depends on your personality. So final verdict, like I said, it comes down to preference, guys. If you like warm weather most of the year, with a little bit of seasons, and you also like friendly culture, you like a slower paced lifestyle, Paraguay is going to have the edge. But if you want more variety, you want more light life, you want more nightlife, you want a bigger city vibe, you want more things to do, you want amazing food, which I'll get into another section, then sign me up for Lima, specifically from December to April. Yes, but for my long-term lifestyle, for my long-term base where I'm going to live, Paraguay is going to win for me. All right, now let's talk foreigners, tourism, and community. So this is one of those factors that flies a little bit under the radar in terms of importance, in terms of where it stands on your values hierarchy for a high quality of life. But it makes a huge difference if you're serious about building a real life abroad. Because it's not just about cost of living or dating or weather. It's about whether you can stand out, whether you can build lasting friendships, whether you can find a community of like-minded men who have shared similar values to yourself. And in Lima, Peru, you're dealing with a massive global city, okay? It's flooded with short-term travelers, with short-term tourists, with digital nomads who just come and go for maybe weekends or just weeks at a time. That means that locals are used to seeing foreigners everywhere. So to them, you're just another gringo, right? You're not really unique or different. So you lose a little bit of that novelty and that edge as a foreigner that you normally get as a foreigner in other cities in Latin America. Now, it's obviously not impossible to make friendships in Lima. It's actually pretty easy, but as far as long-lasting friendships, that's where the challenge might be because people are just coming and going for the most part. More often than not, it'll be shorter term friendships. Building deep long-term connections is going to take a little more effort. With more churn as well, right? People, like I said, they're going to be coming and going. Now, Paraguay is a completely different story. Okay, tourism is almost non-existent. There's really nothing to see here in Asunción. Like, there's not much tourist things to do here, so you're not going to get that type of a foreigner. And the expat scene is also smaller because it's a much smaller city than Lima, Peru. The foreigners who do settle in Paraguay are usually long-term expats, right? They're here for residencies. They're here for saving on taxes. They're here to build something. They're here for stability. So those types of people who are serious about residency, who value freedom, who are building something real, you don't see the same wave of backpackers or party tourists or weekend warriors that dominate places like Medellin or Mexico City, or even sometimes Lima, Peru, because Lima, Peru is not that difficult to get to from the United States, even with a direct flight. So what you do find in Paraguay is a tighter network of men who are working online, who have online businesses. Maybe they're in sales. There's a pretty big remote sales community here that I'm part of as well. And to me, that makes it easier to form authentic friendships in a community that's going to last for years to come. So final verdict, Paraguay is going to win here again. Because it has fewer tourists, there's more intentional expats who are here for longer term stays, and the locals here are generally more welcoming to you as a foreigner. It's a place where you can stand out, where you can build deeper friendships and plug into a real community. Not saying you can't do that in Lima. I just think for me personally, I choose Paraguay for this category as well. So I really hope that video was helpful for you guys. At the end of the day, both Peru and Paraguay are incredible countries with their own unique strengths. Peru shines with its variety, its optionality, its things to do, its fun, its food. Paraguay shines with its stability, its residency options, its simplicity, its chill and relaxed lifestyle, its amazing steaks and asados. So what really matters is matching the right country with your own unique personality and stage in life. And by the way, if you're serious about moving abroad, finding the right place for you, finding housing, maybe looking into residency options, feel free to book a one-on-one private call with me. Link is in the description. Or if you just want to keep exploring more similar videos to this one, then click that one right there and I'll see you there.